to kind of set the tone and introduce the departmental's approach to delivery for this academic year, specifically for the autumn term. So bear with me. There's a few people waiting in the lobby. Just going to admit them. Okay, let me just share my screen. With me. Okay. It's thinking about it. Okay, it's asking me to quit Microsoft Teams and come back in. So I will quickly do that, and I will share my slides in a few moments. Bear with me. Okay, can someone confirm that they can see my slides?
Yes.
Great. Okay, let me start then. So thanks again for everyone for attending this town hall meeting. I hope you find it informative, and at the end of these slides we'll open up a discussion, so please feel free to use that option. I'll describe how we're going to run that in a second. So the agenda for today is to address any key concerns that you've got about the upcoming MRes program that you're enrolled in, and this will be informed by feedback from the current students. So the current students we've reached out to give us any idea of what potentially could be any issues that could arise in the autumn term, and we've used this to alter our delivery of the MRes. The organisation of the remote autumn term, and some additional support measures that have been put in place to make sure your program runs smoothly. And then we'll have our open discussion. Okay, so some key questions to concern. So the key question that has arisen is, obviously, why has the department decided to opt for a mixed mode delivery for the autumn term? So just to confirm, a mixed mode delivery is a mixture of remote teaching and in-person teaching. Now, the future developments are currently unpredictable for what happens with the ongoing COVID-19 situation, but we feel that this mixed mode autumn delivery is the most robust option going forward, and it's fair for all students. And irrespective of how things progress, we think that we are safeguarding our students and being able to deliver an excellent and world-leading program for all students. And why are tuition fees not reduced? So we've decided not to reduce tuition fees, and to be clear, this is a college decision because we are able to still deliver our degrees in their full accredited form. And this includes hands-on elements such as your MRes projects, and we feel that also we can deliver all the learning objectives to an excellent standard as we would have in any normal situation. So things like academic progression will proceed as planned, and we're going to still offer the same world-leading employability for our graduates, a hands-on research experience, and personal feedback and guidance from world-leading researchers throughout the degree program. So how is the autumn term going to be organised? So all lectures and study groups will be delivered via Microsoft Teams, and I can confirm that some of the issues we just had won't be happening. These will all be safeguarded and practiced, and all the lectures will be uploaded to our video recording system, Panopto, as per usual. Live lectures will be streamed via Microsoft Teams, and this will allow the students to ask questions interactively, just as they would in person if they were attending a lecture in a lecture theatre. And we will provide in advance a code of conduct of how to ask questions so that it's organised and everyone can receive efficient feedback on their questions. The department has created and installed teaching booths so that the lecturers can ensure consistent and high quality delivery of online lectures. And this should significantly improve the quality of our Panopto recordings so they're clear and they have high quality visuals that you can still receive a high quality remote learning experience. In preparation for the upcoming autumn term, we'll be delivering and practicing lectures via dry runs, which will involve the lecturers, the GTAs, and the students, so you can become accustomed to this new system so that things will run smoothly during the autumn term. And what's key for MRes students is that the MRes project will go ahead as per usual. So you will still be able to start your MRes projects immediately from the beginning of the autumn term. However, there are a proviso to this is that access to laboratory space is still at the supervisor's discretion. So each lab is run differently, has different amounts of space available, has different facilities, and we also are across 2 sites. We're across the White City and South Kensington campus, and different research groups are based at different campuses. So this has to be, access to the lab will be at the supervisor's discretion, and any lab access will be subject to following the appropriate safety guidelines. And these will be detailed in full in the online student handbooks, which will be available very soon in advance of you arriving on campus. So additional support measures that the college and the department put in place. So we have appointed new staff in the student office to specifically support digital learning. We aim to limit the time frame per day during which lectures happen, so we can accommodate students in different time zones. Study groups will be split into early morning, late afternoon, which allows us to accommodate students in different time zones. And every module will have a dedicated piazza board. So this is a discussion forum which allows students to ask questions, and this will be monitored by GTAs and the course leaders to provide additional opportunity to ask questions and to give you online feedback and efficient feedback on these questions. There will also be an admin piazza board, which will be monitored by the student office, allowing the students to ask organisational questions with answers visible to all. So any questions you have about the modules and the degree programme, this will be monitored by the student office in addition to the module piazza boards. And also, we obviously recognise the additional stress and burden that is caused by the pandemic and delivering an autumn term remotely. So in addition to several COVID-specific offers by the college, our department secured a professional consultant who will run several classes on mindful learning and resilience in the autumn term. Further details of that will be in your student handbooks as well. So neither the college nor the department can influence decisions on housing taken by individual students. And I know postgraduate housing is primarily through private landlords. However, the college has taken steps to provide COVID-specific housing support to students. And primarily for postgraduate students such as yourself, a specific support mechanism is the Road to Private Housing campaign, which is an online support offering by Imperial College, which gives you advice on how to approach landlords, how to negotiate clauses in your contract, and they can also offer online checking of contracts to ensure that you get a fair tenancy agreement on the private accommodation that you will be undertaking. We also have some graduate housing on campus, such as the GradPad, but this is not actually managed by college. This is a private entity, so we don't have control of these necessarily. Furthermore, the college has opened up 2,000 PCs which can be accessed by remote desktop. So any compatibility or accessibility issues you have, we can help raise these with ICT to ensure that you can have access to a remote desktop and engage with any remote teaching that requires you to access desktops on campus remotely. In addition, we will be soon appointing student reps for each MRes program, and we'll be holding elections for these very shortly. And to ensure that there's quick and efficient feedback to the student population for each course, we'll be holding bi-weekly meetings with students' reps to ensure that any concerns you have will be fed back to the MRes directors and the student office. And furthermore, because we won't be having a normal welcome week, which we usually do in person, the department will organise opportunities for remote social interactions, and all of our welcome week events will be run remotely and will be run over a longer period, which we are calling welcome season, which we run over the month of October. So hopefully you'll be able to access all events, no matter where you are, via Teams. So those slides are by way of introduction to kind of give you an overview of some of the questions that may come up. Now we'd like to open a discussion. And what we do is we'll use the chat option in this Teams meeting. So if you could ask initially questions by posting them into the chat. And if this is a question that is endorsed by using the thumbs up option, then we will answer these questions as a priority because these are the most popular questions. And then we'll choose questions which have differing number of endorsements. We'll go through them as often as we can. And then the last remaining 15 minutes, we'll then address individual questions that haven't been as popular. And you can raise these by using the raise hand option. You can use on your individual screen. And then we'll address those in the last 15 minutes of the hour. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen. And what we do is now we can monitor the chat function, and we can start taking questions. Okay, so the floor is open to any questions if anyone would like to use the conversation meeting chat on the right-hand side. And do remember to unmute yourself if you're having problems. Okay, we've got some questions coming out. Remember to endorse these questions if you agree with them or would like to ask these questions. Okay, so let's just take them from the top. This one's receiving a few endorsements. Okay, so Peggy asked, when will we get specific course schedules for the autumn term? Okay, so the student handbooks and the course timetables are being finalised as we speak, and these will be released online before the beginning of term. We can follow up with a timeline for those very shortly, but they are currently being determined as we speak, so they'll be released very shortly. And if any of the MRes directors want to chime in with anything and add to that, then feel welcome. Okay, next question. Specifically the director that the MRes MDDE. When do we find out what project we have been assigned to?
As soon as I have made those decisions, hopefully in the next week or so. Okay. So the MRes Bioengineering, when will we understand the titles of our project? So I think, just to clarify, the titles of your project is in the actual research project you'll be working on. When do you know what that is?
Yes, so for MRes in Bioengineering, a student and supervisor need to agree on the title. This is supposed to happen during the first 2 weeks or 3 weeks in October. You have to agree this with your supervisor directly.
Okay, thanks, Armando. So next question is, what is the plan for the spring and summer term? So at the minute, the plan for the spring term is that teaching will then resume in person. Obviously, this is a a working plan, and we will have to adapt to the pandemic and the government guidelines. But at the minute, the plan is to, from January onwards, at the beginning of the spring term, we will then be giving in-person teaching in addition to our in-person research projects. So we move them from mixed mode to in-person. But this is subject to change, and we'll have to monitor the pandemic situation. Okay. Is the school library open during the pandemic? That is a good question. I believe as far as I understand it, the library isn't open at the minute, but you have access to all the online resources, and I believe you can get books couriered to you if you need to, but we'll have to, I can follow up on that. If anyone else knows any more information about the school library, if not, I will follow up on that one by the end of the meeting. Okay, next question. When will we be able to collect our student IDs, which were sent to the department? Okay, so typically when you enroll, you go to the student office, the card office, you receive your student IDs in person. Now, obviously, this is not practical for all students to arrive at the card office en masse, because it will be violating a lot of the social distancing measures. So what we'll do is we will contact students individually when their cards are ready, and then they will be given those individually. Will there be, thanks Jane. So Jane's posted details of the library services that can be found. So this is the current status of the library. Will there be any in-person socializing opportunities? So at the moment, the guidelines don't permit mass gatherings, especially on campus. What is permitted is for people to organise privately, obviously, picnics and things outdoors. But we are going to be trying to organise some activities online that we can engage with, and also we will be engaging with the MRes student reps to help organise activities and events for the MRes cohorts, to enable them to get to know each other, to feel integrated, and to feel welcome. So that hopefully these events will be organised in the coming weeks and months, but nothing scheduled in for in person, because that is strictly not allowed by college at the moment. Okay, next question. Samuel, is there a pre-reading list for each of the courses? If so, where can it be found? So this may differ from course to course, but as I understand it, there will be, is there a recommended text in the student handbooks? Can any of the MRes directors comment on that typically? Is there a recommended text or reading list, or is it something that is for the MRes Bioengineering? Is it more project specific, and the modules themselves have recommended texts?
For MRes in neurotechnology, it's module specific. So for example, when you start the neuroscience course, which is the compulsory course for this program, I will tell you in the beginning of the first lecture, as well as during some subsequent lectures, what the best reading material is. And I believe it will be the similar practice for other modules as well, because it's very module specific, yes. And you will have a flexibility to choose different optional modules, so therefore your reading list will really depend on your selections.
For MRes in bioengineering, the same applies. So it's going to be depending on the module. And let me specify something that I saw a question there that it says, for MRes in bioengineering, do we have to agree on the project during the first 2-3 weeks? This is recommendable, but this is very flexible. So normally you will have 9 months of full research from January to September. So I would say not to stress about the title of the project. Try to discuss it, try to understand it, but we are going to be very flexible as we have been in the past when we need to change the title of the project or even the scope of the project. Over to you, Adam.
Thanks, guys. Okay, so Arushi's having trouble with some tuition fee issues. So I can't comment specifically on the tuition fees department. So this is a town hall meeting specifically on MRes programs. If you can email me separately, I will put my email address in the chat function, and I can try and escalate that for you. Okay, next question. ATAS clearance, can you start your modules before you have one? I don't believe that's possible. So to engage with any degree program, whether it be in person or remotely, I think you need to have ATAS clearance for your visa. Hopefully, that I know there's been some delays, and it's a situation that is happening, it's ongoing, but hopefully that will be cleared up. Does anyone able to comment on the MRes directors on being able to progress without ATAS clearance? I believe that's prohibitive to starting any MRes course, I believe.
As far as I'm aware, you will need ATAS clearance. I can check now.
Okay, thanks, Jane. Okay, it's possible to take in GTA. So you basically, Juan, you're asking if you can take on GTA responsibilities during your course, and if so, you asked to provide information for 9th December that we've not received yet, e.g. available schedule. So my MRes students haven't registered as GTAs. You can potentially be a UTA, because I think you have to be a has anyone had students who have actually acted as GTAs? I've not had any MRes students as GTAs myself.
I have not, and I think typically, I think this year they've been asking MRes students if they're interested in being GTA, which requires supervisor approval. So.
Okay, well, I recommend you just contact your supervisor if you've got approval. I would source the approval from the supervisor first, because it will take time away from your degree program, and then it's obviously a special situation in terms of timetabling and moving everything online. So you have to bear with the student office in terms of scheduling. But if they know you're interested and they know what your expertise is, they will fit you in for the appropriate course if you're required. Okay. MRes Bioengineering. When will the research project start? I was told that I will be starting. So the project will start as soon as you enroll and arrive. You basically have to engage with the supervisor immediately, I believe, and then do some background reading. Armando, can you just clarify that?
Yes, sure. So correct. The program is organized in 2 main modules. So the main part of the course is the teaching course, which is gonna happen between October at the end of January. This is the teaching part, and then the research part is gonna be from the middle of January till September. So we recommend a student that they take these 3 first months until the end of the year to join the department, to join the culture of the department, and possibly to join group meetings in the research. But we recommend that they focus on the teaching part. You will have a lot of commitment with the teaching. So if you want to start working on the project, this is totally fine, but this is not a requirement. It is supposed to start, so you're supposed to start doing research only from the middle of January. if this is clear. So it doesn't mean that you cannot start research, that you cannot engage with the group. I think you should do, and we recommend you to contact the supervisor to attend the group meetings, obviously online, or whatever activities the group is doing. But we really recommend that you focus in these first 3 months on the teaching module. Over to you, Adam.
Thanks. So there's 2 related questions that are coming on optional modules. So when will they be able to choose the optional modules, and how many optional modules will they choose? So I know that,
Okay.
Yeah, I think that's aimed at you again, Armando.
Yeah. So the optional module need to be completed, need to be chosen before the 2nd week of October. There is a website through the department in which you can select them, and you will have a list of them. So during the welcome week in October, I will tell you how to select those courses. But this needs to happen within the first 2 weeks of October.
Thanks. I think there's another one for you, Armando. So Peggy asks, how many hours a day does a student usually spend in lab to work on research projects during terms where there's no teaching? Peggy's one of my students, so I'll let you take that one, Armando, for the official line. And then I'll just agree.
This is totally dependent on the project. It will basically varies from project to project. We expect that a research student, you work as a PhD student, for example, as a normal postgraduate student from the middle of January. So when you finish the teaching module, we expect that you fully join the research group, either online or in person. But I mean, you will work like a postgraduate student, so full time, which means like 35 hours per week. But I mean, again, this is totally flexible and will depend on the project and how situation will develop during the next month.
Yeah, Peggy, we'll keep you busy, don't worry. Okay, so how many optional modules do we need to choose? Okay, last question in the chat here. Sam asks, how do we sign up to become a UTA GTA? So if you haven't been reached, if the student office haven't reached out to you to sign up, there is a person called Larissa in the department who is actually managing the number of GTAs that are registered and asking their expertise. So Sam, I can follow up on that for you and give you some instructions. But yeah, if we are reaching out this year for MRes GTAs, then Larissa's the person you need to talk to. I'll send you an email, Sam. Can you just send me your email in the chat, and I'll just contact you directly. Do get the authorization from your supervisor before you pursue that, though. Thanks. Okay. Any further questions? So if there's no more questions in the chat, you could raise your hand, although I think the chat's probably easier to identify any raised hands. So I'll keep an eye out for any raised hands. It looks like there's nothing at the moment. Okay, well, I think if that's everything, oh, here we are. How do you know who is your supervisor? So is this the, can you clarify which MRes program you're enrolled in? MDD, okay. So I think Jimmy clarified this earlier. He's still assigning students to projects, is that right?
Yeah, so each MDE student is co-supervised by myself, and a scientific advisor is typically the inventor of the technology. So again, those project matches have yet to be made.
Okay, so James hopefully put in also some information on ATAS certificates and clearance. So the student earlier asked that. Please use that link for some further information. Okay, so I'm going to say final call for any questions before we close the meeting. Don't feel like this is your last opportunity to ask any questions. Okay, here we are. So I assume this question is it MRes Bioengineering?
No, it doesn't mean that you need to choose your project within the first 2 or 3 weeks after the beginning of the autumn semester. You should contact the supervisor. You can start discussing the project with your supervisor. The title doesn't have to be fixed. Actually, it is recommended that you do some background reading, that you get used to the project that are going on in the group before finally deciding the title of the final scope. So again, it is not a requirement to choose a title for the first 2 to 3 weeks.
So Sam's asking for the intake on the MRes course numbers. We have an idea. We will see when students enroll, but it's similar to last year. I think there's around 40 on the bioengineering. But yeah, are you the bioengineering MRes, Sam? MDDE. Okay. So yeah, I think you'll have a healthy cohort of students on the MDDE. Jimmy, do you know how many students you're going to have this year? What's the final number for Sam?
It might be 8. It might be a few more. It might be a few less.
Okay, Rishi, how will we be evaluated on the coursework this time? So can you confirm which MRes, and it's helpful with all the questions actually, if you could just confirm which MRes you're enrolled in. So Rishi, CounterTech, Sam, how will coursework be evaluated?
Yeah, so again, this sort of depends on which module you're talking about particularly, but for each individual module, you'll be assessed in different ways. Some of them will be exam-based, some will be coursework-based, some will be sort of oral presentation to groups on teams such as this. So a variety of different assessment methods, and feedback should be given to you sort of 2 weeks after you submit, and that's sort of the college guidelines for all the resubmissions, for the feedback submissions.
Thanks, Sam. Okay, so Lorenzo, to reiterate, will the autumn semester learning activities be totally online, or could there be some activities in person? So they will be totally online in terms of the learning activities. That is a college decision. Okay, so MDDE. So in early January, is like we may come to college to conduct in-person research. Yes, as far as the college are concerned, from January, as long as the situation doesn't change dramatically or decline, then we're going to be welcoming students on campus for all degree-specific activities in person in January. But there is dedicated COVID websites on the department and college level, and we'll be obviously in close contact with all of you to monitor the situation. You'll know well in advance if the situation changes and our position changes. Okay, well, this has obviously been very useful because there's lots of questions. Any more? Bioengineering. Kalina, just to confirm, will we have contact with our labs prior to January, or is this dependent on what we arrange with our supervisors?
It will totally depend on what you arrange with your supervisor. It's not a requirement, but it's strongly recommended that you connect with the group, that you connect with the supervisor, that you know what is happening in the group. But this is not a requirement to have a title, to have a fixed project. During this time, you will need to prepare your literature review and thesis proposal. For that, you need to know what is happening in the group. I strongly recommend that you try to attend the meetings online and understand what is going on, and that you meet with your supervisor to understand what is the project that you're going to work in, right? But you don't need to, you have to contact with, obviously you should contact with your supervisor, but yeah. So the quick answer is yes, all of you should contact your supervisor, obviously. Don't leave this without, I mean, you have to contact the supervisor for sure. It doesn't mean that you have to have a project title and a project decided at this point. Over to you.
Yeah, so Colleen, just to reiterate that point, across all the MRes programs, we really want the students to be integrated into the research groups, so that they're introduced to the other lab members, or either online or in person in smaller groups. So you get a sense of you engaging with the research group, understanding the research you're involved with and what's around you. So you get that embedded in the research culture. So that could be interactions in person with individual lab members, things like inductions or equipment you may need to use. But primarily, most supervisors will be running things like group meetings online because we aren't able to have large gatherings in rooms. So you could have in-person interactions if you choose to engage with the research group in the first term, but most of the interactions may be online because it's an unnecessary risk to meet in large groups in person. How many students are enrolled in MRes CounterTech?
I guess that's my question. So the MRes CounterTech is a new MRes in the department. We are aiming quite small this year, something like a five student cohort, and hopefully you'll all come in and generate a lot of great projects and will propel into a lot more students in future years.
Sam? Any other questions? Are there any scholarships in the department for PhD students? Yes, we have a range of scholarships available. We have EPSRC scholarships for home EU students. We have President scholarships, which are available to anyone, international students. We have a dedicated scholarships page. I will put that in the chat. So you can read through that, determine which ones you're eligible for, and then it usually requires a supervisor to support your application. So you can discuss that with your supervisor throughout the year, and then just make sure you hit the relevant deadlines if you want to go for those. Okay, how many students are there for the MRes Neurotech?
I believe it's about 15.
Okay, so there's the scholarships page. Any other questions? Coming through in dribs and drabs now. Okay. Okay, how to assess the person's research result? Can you clarify what you mean? Is that, firstly, what MRes program are you enrolled in, and are you talking about how the research project is assessed? We'll come back to that question. The department website indicates that the MRes bioengineering students have the chance to transfer to a 1+3 PhD program. When can we get the chance? So that is pending on funding being available for the PhD program. So that would usually involve discussions with the supervisor who you're doing your MRes project with, and then topping up to a PhD if the funding is in place, either from the supervisor through a scholarship or a studentship that's been secured, or by applying to one of the scholarships that we have available. So I would liaise directly with your project supervisor if you're interested in pursuing the 1+3 PhD program. But if you enroll on the 1+3, you're not guaranteed a PhD. It's pending on there being a studentship or funding available. So just talk directly to your supervisor about the funding situation and being absolutely clear that there is funding for the entire course. Okay. Well, I'm going to stab at the question for the research result. So the research project is assessed in the MRes for Bioengineering, I would assume, if you can't provide any more clarification on a variety of assessments. So some of the modules have assessments, some of them are pass-fail, but primarily the degree is graded via the research project. So that is a poster presentation, a thesis, and a viva presentation. So they're the main components of the degree, and they will be the vast majority of your degree classification will be based on those assessments. Will there be support for writing up at the end of the project? So is that for the writing the thesis? Nisha? Yeah. Yeah. So I mean that you'll get support from your research group. So your direct supervisor, you may be more working closely with a postdoc or PhD student. But I mean, so I can talk about you because you're in my group. I will give you support for writing up and assessing your writing style. And I can look at drafts of any documents you prepare over the course of the degree to make sure that you're happy with your academic writing. And specifically for the thesis itself, I offer, it's subjective and it's actually dependent on the supervisor, but I personally offer some feedback and advice on drafts to ensure that you're correct in your academic English and you're presenting data appropriately. And that's all part of the training program for the MRes, really, that you can conduct research and disseminate it effectively. Okay, got just over 10 minutes to go. Any other questions? Okay, so Sam's on the NDDE. How many talk contact hours are there per week? An estimation, Jimmy? What's the typical contact hours?
So the medical device entrepreneurship module is 3 hours per week, and if you're taking optional modules, they'd be about the same. Each module, I believe, in the department's about 3 hours a week, right, Adam?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, 3 hours. Yeah.
Can I just add something? So keep in mind that there will be the welcome week in the beginning of October, which will be specific for each program. And there we will go in detail over your specific program and what you will be doing, what you will be learning, which courses, how many hours, etc. So I suggest that specific questions about specific programs, if possible, are are kept for that welcome week, because you'll be given a much more informative answer, much more detailed answer then.
Yeah, I agree. Thanks, Andriy. That's a good point. So GTA work, yes. On the MRes Neurotech, you'd have to talk to your supervisor for permission because it will take time away from your research project. But in principle, you're eligible to be a GTA. Alexis. Okay, so yeah, as I said before, the 1+3 PhD program, is that eligible? Is that a route from the CounterTech program, Sam?
So I would say that, again, similar sort of procedures here, dependent on funding. So you could always talk to your supervisors during your MRes or shortly after your MRes to see if they'd be willing to take you for a PhD program. I would say that for the Counter Technology program, we also have we have some PhD studentships which are funded between us and the ICR, and those are competitive and run every single year. So there may be some opportunities to enter those as well.
Thanks, Sam. Okay, so yeah, GTAs, any MRes student in principle is eligible to be a GTA. Again, talk to your supervisor first. Yeah, so Jianling, look at the scholarship website that I emailed in the chat, sent in the chat, and then that will give you information on the specific requirements for each scholarship. Okay, Simon wants confirmation of the accreditation for further study for CEng status. Some information on the website is not totally clear. So CEng status, Jimmy, are the degree program fully accredited with the IOM? I believe it is. That hasn't changed. That's always been the case. All MRes programs are accredited. Jimmy, can you comment on further study from your MRes to go on to attain CEng status?
Certainly our MRes programs are accredited. Whether that leads to CEng registration or not is, I don't know. We've had students go on for the PhD afterwards, so that's generally not a problem. So I'm definitely not an expert on what's required for CEng registration. Sorry.
Yeah, I can follow up you with that, Sam, on it separately. In addition to the GTA inquiry. Okay, Rishi, as this new course, what are the placements predictions for this session? As in where the projects will take place? Rishi, could you clarify what you mean? on the CounterTech, what are the placements prediction for this session? So can you just clarify exactly what you mean there? I feel like this is a question that can be, after the course, what are the chances of getting a good job? Well, I mean, I think it's a fully accredited MRes program, and it's like any degree program. If you get a top grade, get a first or a distinction, then you've got a good chance of getting a good job. Our typical destinations from our MRes students from other courses are medical device companies, finance. You know, we've got good links to industry, and we run lots of different events during the year, connector events. So you know, that's kind of down to yourself as well, Rishi. So we can't really comment on that. But yeah, I mean, it's an accredited MRes degree from Imperial College. That should help. Okay, I'm going to now just close the meeting if we don't have any specific questions for your arrival to Imperial, because you're going to have the welcome week inductions for the specific courses. What forms of assessment will be there in first term? Is it just essays, or will there be virtual presentations? So which MRes are you talking about, Hattie? And these will be covered in welcome week. So you'll get a detailed description of the program and what's going to be in store for you in welcome week. And Andriy can go into detail.
Yes, I will tell you that in October.
Okay. Jelin's asking, in the MRes CounterTech, would it be possible to arrive only from the second term, so coming in the new year? So Simon, is that going to negatively impact Jelin's ability to do the research projects?
Yes, so it's expected you arrive in the first term. I mean, the first term is really important so that you could, you know, discuss and potentially even meet in person if it's safe to do so. Potential supervisors, you know, to talk to the, you know, what's available, gauge your interests and what sort of skill sets you may be gaining or sort of be involved with or required. And then, even though officially you would start in January, you know, I think if you are if there's time available and you're interested, and the supervisors have, again, the safety clearances for you, you could begin work in the lab even earlier. So we do want you to be here before January.
Thanks, Sam. Okay, so I think we've only got a couple minutes to go in this session. Thanks for all your questions. Hopefully they've been enlightening and it's put your mind at ease and you're fully prepared to arrive Imperial in a few weeks. And as we've mentioned, in the welcome week, you'll be getting specific information events for your MRes degrees. So that will give you more detailed information on how the program will be delivered and how the taught aspect will be delivered remotely and all the course specifics. So hopefully that'll give you some more detail, more flesh on the bones to what we've provided today. But it's been really helpful for me and for you, hopefully. And myself and the MRes directors look forward to meeting you in person, hopefully soon, and also seeing you virtually in the welcome week. So I think we can close the meeting there. Thank you very much for your time, and looking forward to having you at Imperial.